So the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series has spoken. They have just announced the new rules for the series moving into the 2026 season and with some thoughts moving into 2027, looking ahead at the future. So we're gonna get into it in today's show. You can see this car behind me. This is actually the car that was upstairs in our trailer. We got it down, of course, at the end of the season. We're gonna be using that as a demonstration to kind of help you guys understand these new rules. I'm outside in Southern Oregon. It's probably one of the last nice days we're gonna have this winter before the snow rolls in. So just taking it all in. And of course, when things happen at the top of sprint car racing, just like when they happen at the top of motorsports across all the other divisions, people start talking, right? And social media starts moving and the numbers start changing and everyone starts giving their opinion. So I'm gonna just try to lay out all the rules today, probably give you a little bit of my opinion, but also I wanna speak for sprint car racing and, what is the majority of the feedback that I have seen, just, again, with everyone's opinions online and, what they think about everything that just got put out. So as I pull up the article right here, it's on the front of their website, and I think we should start with where the most chatter is, and that is with the new update to the fuel tanks and how they're mounted on the sprint car. So traditionally, I know at least since I began sprint car racing in 2017, and I believe, many years before that, the fuel cells have always been held on by 4 different mounting points behind the driver's seat, behind the cockpit. And without the tank on this car, it's easier to see. So here's the seat, of course. This is known as the A-frame. You can see how my seat mounts to that A-frame. The rear end, and then the fuel cell would sit right here. There's a look at one of the lower mounting points. There's the other one, and then on the triple X's, here's the top. You can see it right there. Now, of course, the reason for these updates and now making it 6 mounting points is because they're trying to do everything they can to keep the fuel tanks on the cars. That's what the World of Outlaws is, of course, trying to do. They do not want the fuel cells flying off the cars, similar to like almost how we have the tethers up front with the axles to keep the axles in the race cars when we crash. Now, here is a look at a fuel shell that we ran this season. This, like I said, just goes right behind the seat. You can see the spots right here where it mounts to the frame, and that's how it's supposed to be held on. And so here's what I feel like a lot of what I'm seeing online, what drivers and teams are complaining about. So you can see that. And now the new mounting system, I think the most common one that people are talking about is gonna mount right here underneath where actually the bladder, this is the bladder. The bladder comes in and out of the shell. It mounts up front, which would be right here. It's gonna mount right here on this bar. And I'm just gonna put up on the screen a picture of what the mounting system, or an example of it. I believe the Katings, they just posted the one that they're gonna be selling. I think Triple X, one of my partners, they're making one as well. The example I'm showing is just what I think how most are gonna attack this issue, basically, in mounting it on the front. Now, I think there is other ways to do it. They didn't say specifically where the 6 mounting points have to be. It just has to be mounted in 6 spots. So I don't want to talk about any of the other possible ways because I don't know those as well, but I have heard some chatter about, hey, there's just different ways to do it. But yeah, that's kind of explains what that is going to look like. And again, the main goal is to keep the shell on the car. That's what the series is wanting to happen. And most of the buzz that I've seen from teams, I actually haven't seen a lot from some of the top guys. I bet they've probably been discussing things behind the scenes. But definitely we're hearing it louder from, the middle of the road teams, the guys that maybe don't have as much funding, and now this is just another added expense for them, because you don't just buy it for one car. Now you got to buy it for your backup car or your third car, whatever you have in your arsenal as you're trying to build your team up, or just run those select, World of Outlaw races each season that you can, because obviously you can't show up without it now. So I think, you have that. You have the people, hey, it's another added expense. And I don't think any teams are complaining about trying to make things safer. That's not it has nothing to do with that. It's just that as we make things safer, obviously, sometimes it is going to fall on the teams, but it just feels like it's more reoccurring that it falls on the teams instead of, hey, maybe can we make a better fuel cell that doesn't need to be mounted in 6 spots? We can use what we already got, but just make, the mousetrap better. And, if I'm putting my opinion in, I would actually agree with that. I feel like there's probably a better design, better system. There's definitely room for improvement instead of just adding this, which, is kind of a simple fix, but does it still fix the issue? We'll have to see if fuel tanks are still leaving the race car, which I'm sure it absolutely could happen. And then there's a whole nother debate. Is it better for the fuel tank to be on the car, or is it actually better for it to fly off the car? Obviously, you don't want something, risking the fans and possibly landing in the grandstands, but for the driver's safety, there's probably situations where maybe it was better that a fuel cell landed, in the middle of the racetrack and, a driver's he's stuck upside down and he doesn't have to, deal with some of that. Anyway, that's a debate for another time. But again, I think a lot of people are just saying it's an added expense. We aren't truly fixing the problem how we should. That's what I've seen. I would actually fall in line and agree with that. One of those things though, now we'll just kind of see how it all plays out. So the next rule underneath it is pretty simple, and again, another just safety concern. Has to do with the left side opening for guys that run a left side door. So my demonstration car here doesn't have a door, but just to keep it pretty simple, it's mainly this left side opening is what they're discussing. No need to overcomplicate it, just basically the driver opening. And with this move, I haven't really heard a lot of discussion on social media, so maybe everyone's just kind of in favor that this is a good direction to go. So as we keep scrolling here, another simple rule: no more carbon fiber floor pans. All it says is they're no longer allowed. Only steel or aluminum floor pans will be allowed, carbon fiber will not. Floor pan must have a minimum of one hole of 1/2 inch diameter or larger for drainage. I would agree. I think that's a good move. We saw a couple guys crash, big at, I think it was Knoxville this year, and maybe some other places. And everyone's running the carbon fiber floor pan. I think it's just to save weight. Everyone's trying to be as close to the weight limit as possible. I get it. Like it all matters in this day and age because everything is so competitive. But personally, I like my feet. And so that's where, even when we were allowed to, we talked about it. Like, people advised me, they're like, I wouldn't do it. And I was like, that's probably fair. So I like my feet. That's why I've never even ever ran a carbon fiber floor pan, but now they're no longer allowed. So as we keep scrolling, this is the other topic of discussion on all these new rules. Okay, so this car came from our shop, so that's why it has a left rear tire on the right rear. But this new rule has to do with wheel covers. Technically, this wheel cover that I'm holding in my hand right now is illegal. If I ran a World of Outlaw show in 2026 and raced, I guess they would disqualify me, and that is because it has 5 Zeus buttons that hold it on. You see these Zeus buttons. You use a screwdriver, a Zeus tool, and you just cinch all 5 of these into the beadlock ring, and that's a mud cover, and that keeps mud out of the wheel, which then could flatten your tire or pack a wheel and give a driver a vibration. So here's how it would look with the beadlock ring on a wheel, right? You'd have all your bolts here, you'd zip them down into the wheel. And yeah, like I said, that is, these Zeuses are no longer allowed. At one point, 3 Zeuses was allowed, that was outlawed. And I could actually understand that 3 bolts is probably better than 3 Zeuses, but some wheel covers I believe even have 6. All of our sander stuff here has 5. Yeah, I don't know, I wasn't really sure about this one, mainly because I didn't really think it was an issue. I mean, we had not had a problem whether we ran this wheel cover or even one of the heavier duty ones. Our Zeuses have held up, unless you maybe really beat down the wall, but at that point, right, like what wheel cover is gonna hold on? So yeah, now you have to run 3 bolts, which, obviously would have to be taken off with like an impact. And they would be in a similar location, I think. I mean, I've seen it quite a bit. It's like something I'm a little familiar with. We've just always ran Zeuses, so in our program, just never really dealt with the 3 bolts. Now, I don't want to speak too much on this one because maybe there's some data or some testing or something that happened that I don't know about. Purely off experience, though, again, I feel like the 5 Zeuses was really good. And so more than anything, I think for teams that were frustrated about this one, it's just more of a pain. It's something like, you have to go change all your stuff. I actually don't know. So again, I don't like to talk about things I don't know about, but like, I don't know if I need to go get all new beadlock rings or if I can convert these to the bolts or what, which again, then that could be another added expense if I do have to go get all new beadlock rings for all my stuff, and then I got to try to get rid of these, and then who do you get rid of them to? I guess most of the local stuff I guess could probably run them, but anyway, still just kind of one of those things that's a pain, and I feel like if it isn't broken, why try to fix it? But maybe there's more to it than what I know, and I feel like that was just the common opinion that I saw from a lot of people writing about this change. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I feel like that and the fuel tank were the ones that kind of drew the most attention here. Underneath, we have rear axle inside diameter, which basically, we knew this was coming. I think this is just kind of the end of ultralight axles, which I think that's probably a good thing. And nothing against the product of ultralight axles, it's just the thinking behind it, right? And I feel like if you even just break it down from all the measurements and thickness and whatever, running the lightest possible axle on a 900 horsepower 410 sprint car, right? Like, maybe it's better for us and everyone to have a little heavier duty stuff, because it's almost like racers were crazy. You give us the option and we'll literally, there's guys that will do whatever, that is almost like risking everything just for that little bit on track, and like at some point it's probably better for the sport to maybe just like eliminate some of that. So the ultralight axles are gone. So as we keep scrolling, the next one actually has to do with the change coming in 2027. And this is basically a change to a support bar for the cages. And their diagram here is almost better than shown on my car, so you can kind of see basically this bar is going to extend up and be closer to the top of the cage. And realistically, just again, another thing looking for driver safety to kind of help support the cage and for impact and for, you know, the cockpit kind of to collapse. So again, I feel like we can all kind of get behind that. And then the last thing, they talked briefly about front wing and top wing stuff. Looks like they decided though to not make any changes at one point. I know they were talking about it. It is mentioned though that the plan is to work on a more precise manufactured front wing gauge that will be used by all sanctioning bodies. So that's basically to check to make sure the front wing is in the correct location, there's enough clearance, and it's not too far forward. But yeah, that's a little bit on the new rules that the World of Outlaws came out with. I just really wanted to go through and, if I could, give a little bit more clarity for you guys, the race fans, so you understand, you know, what they all mean. Are race car drivers, are we the worst? Are we babies complaining about changes and this and that? Or are we in the right? Do you see kind of where we're coming from? Let me know. Again, I really do try to see things from all sides. You know, you got to understand the series, obviously they're trying to make the best moves for their business and for them, and then also trying to look out for us. And drivers obviously are looking at things all from our perspective, you know, right? Because we're the team and we have a lot invested and so much going on there. So, you know, I think everyone probably, again, like, it's right for them to look at it from their position. But I just think, you know, back, the two main things, the fuel cell was like, hey, is there a better way we could have done this than this change? And then also with the you know, the wheel covers and stuff, was that needed to be changed. And I'll probably just have to do some more talking around the industry, and maybe I'll get more information that then will make it all click. And just wanted to share that with you, share some opinions, share some thoughts and what's going on, and appreciate your guys' support. We'll keep rolling through the off season. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next show.